Hello and welcome to another edition of Safety Alert. I'm your host, Lisa Lancaster, and today here in the studio, it is my pleasure to have Colonel Elmer Setting of the Newcastle County Police Department. And today we're going to discuss Targeted Analytic Police Systems, referred to as TAPS, and the smartphone app, which Colonel Setting is going to give you a lot of information on that you, the citizen, can get involved in. So, Colonel Setting, thank you for being here today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? I mean, let me just say, it's a kind of geeky throwback for me because when I was an officer, I remember you as Officer Setting Mounted Patrol.
That's right.
So now seeing you as Chief, all due respect, I love it. Just kind of let the citizens know a little bit about you and Newcastle County Police.
Sure. I'm homegrown. I'm a resident. I grew up in Wilmington, and I'm a resident of our own county. So I'm your chief and your neighbor. And I came up through the ranks. I'm the only mounted police officer to ever become chief in 100 years of this agency. So I'm very proud of being a mounted cop. Yes. Still ride to this day. And but the most exciting thing that's ever occurred in my career was an opportunity to change and reshape the agency and change, how we police. Because 911 driven policing, very, very expensive and very frustrating, not only for police officers, but for our citizens. Because if we take a quick snapshot of where crime is occurring, given the computer and technology that we have today, we kind of know where we should be beforehand. And that's really the TAPS program in a nutshell. And it's been a very effective program, and I think the citizens and certainly the officers involved are seeing the benefits of it.
Wow. Well, can you tell us how TAPS developed? How did it develop?
That's exactly what happened. We started looking at how we policed, which was everyone calls 911. Mm-hmm. About 400,000 911 calls a year in Newcastle County.
Wow.
And we only had, at the time, we had right around 335 officers. Well, that's not a lot of officers for 400,000 calls and 400 square miles.
Agreed.
You're giving police service to over 500,000 people in Newcastle County. So started looking at this thinking they call in, we get the call, and we triage it. We decide what's important. So you have your murder, rape, robbery. Right. Those are the ones that are they're the big important calls, and we all want to be great cops.
Right.
So we rush to those calls. It's natural. And we do very good at getting to those calls very, very quickly. We're very efficient. So if we had a report card on those big calls, we get an A. Okay. When you call in the things that citizens are really concerned about, speeding, kids loitering in the park, doing hand-to-hand drug transactions, breaking bottles in the street, blocking traffic with the pickup game.
Gotcha.
This is what frustrates citizens. Well, we don't get to those complaints using the old model. We triage those and they wait for hours. And we don't get the officers there until everyone's frustrated. The officer's frustrated from driving around the county at 100 miles an hour.
Right.
Citizens frustrated for waiting, and when we get there they say, well, the kids are gone.
Right.
Thanks for nothing.
Right.
So I said, this isn't the answer. I said, what if we took some of the officers out of patrol, off the 911 treadmill, analyzed the data of where the most quality of life complaints are occurring in Newcastle County, and put officers in that area and leave them there. Instead of driving in, putting on a Band-Aid and leaving, put them in the area where they're most needed. That's how we created our mobile enforcement teams. Okay. And said, look, you have a sergeant and 5 savvy officers who know the Constitution. Treat people with dignity and respect, but I want you to stop the quality of life crime. So they go in, and that's exactly what happened. So all quality of life crime in the same areas where we were having rape, robbery, and murder, it all dropped. Because if we don't let you run through a stop sign or break a bottle in the street, it doesn't occur to you to commit a murder or worse or anything in that category. So that's how we realized, by taking resources off the 911 treadmill, putting them in the areas where we already know crime is occurring and quality of life crime is occurring, all crime went down. And it hovers around 20%. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down.
Right.
We still have a big county with lots and lots of 911 calls. We still answer that 911 bell every single day, but our focus has been on proactivity. And treating people with dignity and respect. And I told every police officer the day I took over as chief, and I'm still saying it 3 years and 3 months later, that's a recipe for success. Where other agencies across the United States are trying to figure out how to be diverse, They're trying to figure out how to have community outreach.
Right.
They're trying to figure out how do we become a better police department.
Right.
We've been doing this for 20 years. We've always been a community police department.
Right.
When I came on in 1989, my chief, Tom Gordon,
Right.
was already talking about community policing.
Right.
And no one else knew what the heck it was
Exactly.
28 years ago.
I agree.
And so that's where we're at. You know, all we're doing is every day trying to figure out a way to be a better agency and treat our people the best they can be treated. I've said time and again, you know, people think there's power in the badge. Nope, it's just a piece of tin. Our power flows from the people we serve. We should serve them well.
I agree. And I love that you mirror that message that you said at the time the county exec was your police chief. When I joined, he was my police chief.
Exactly.
And one of the most appealing things about Newcastle County Police was the community policing
Absolutely.
aspect. So you talked about how it was developed. When was it implemented? Was it 3 years ago when you became chief?
Immediately,
Okay.
I sat a team of people down that I considered subject matter experts. Our crime analyst, you know, my good friend Captain Pat Crow was a lieutenant at the time, and a very brilliant young woman who's skyrocketed through the ranks, Major Wendy Feeser, at the time was a captain. And I said, you know, we need to analyze. We have computer algorithms. Why don't we use them to figure out where things are occurring and reshape how we, deploy assets and resources? And they sat down, and actually they are the ones that said, I asked them if it could be done.
Right.
Like I always do.
Right.
Because, you know, a reasonable man is never going to change the world.
Right.
And so I asked them to do something unreasonable, figure out how I can reduce crime without increasing the numbers of officers.
Okay.
They came back and said, we figured out a way to know exactly where the most quality of life crime is going to occur in the top 5 areas in Newcastle County. And then I kind of said, okay, no matter what it takes, we're going to put resources in those areas. And we did. So that it was literally 2 months after I took over that we made this change, and it was so effective that we stuck with it.
And what year was that?
That would be the first year I came in was I was appointed as an acting chief in November of 2012.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
2012.
And so now we're in 2016, and in your opinion, how is it working?
Well, when you can look and see, one of the great measurements of something is working. In the old days, we always measured everything. How fast did we get to a complaint?
Yes.
And like I told you, we got to the really high complaints quickly,
Right.
but everything else pended. So that measurement, that stick goes out the window. We can't
Right.
use that measuring stick anymore. We need a new measuring stick. We
Right.
need a new metric. So I decided, when you look at the online surveys and you see the comments from our citizens saying that we're a well-regarded police department, and when you go to community meetings and they say, we love you guys, thank you, and you go to churches and you hear thank you, and you go to the PAL Center and you hear thank you,
Yep.
I think that's a measuring stick.
I agree.
That's a better way of knowing that we're improving the quality of life, and we're improving the value in our own communities, because the county police, again, I'll say this because it's important. We're your police department. We're your neighbors.
Okay.
And you see the cars all over your neighborhoods. You see them. We live among you. We want the best neighborhoods, and we want the safest communities that we can possibly create.
I love that. So tell me, and you talked about this a little bit, what kinds of crimes do you look at to designate a neighborhood for TAPS?
Well, we look at all quality of life crime.
Okay.
Now I would be remiss if I didn't say we have a problem with our drugs, illegal drugs and illicit drugs are the primary cause of homicide. That means a guy is literally walking up, identifying his target. He's so committed to this. Right. They're looking each other in the eyes, drawing guns, and shooting one another. It's tragic, but here's the real tragic part of it. Everyone says, okay, the police are going to have to solve that. Yes, we're trying to solve it. But here's the piece. Everyone out there knows who did what. In other words, in each one of those homicides, someone knows.
Right, somebody knows.
And that's why I'm going to use this segue to talk about our app.
Oh, yes, please do.
Because people are afraid to don't snitch.
Right.
Well, let me tell you something. You're not building a better society with this don't snitch.
Right.
Motto and
Right.
attitude towards policing, because you're not doing anyone any favors. So don't snitch. Well, maybe you're next.
Right.
But I can respect if someone says, well, I don't want to talk because I'm afraid, go to your smartphone. Everyone has a smartphone, most people. Go into your app store, put in Newcastle County Police, download our MyPD app. You can make completely anonymous tips.
Okay.
You can commend an officer. You can report an officer that's done something wrong. You can get crime tips. You can get news stories. But most importantly, you can give us information with complete and utter anonymity.
Love it.
You can go in there, and we have no way of tracking who you are.
Okay.
It's completely a double-blind report, and you can tell us anything you want. You can give us tips on a drug house. You can give us tips on a homicide, because when a 17-year-old young man who's utterly innocent can be gunned down in front of 100 people and no one saw anything.
Right.
Now, you and I have both been law enforcement officers. You were an FBI agent.
Right.
No one saw anything?
Nobody's seen anything.
Of course you did.
Right.
You just you think that there's something wrong with reporting it.
Right.
But let me tell you, that family, they suffer every day not knowing who did this and why they did it. And we are committed, including our cold case unit. We will never back away from these cases. But at any point, if you wanted to be a successful community with a successful police department, you would pick up your phone, use that app, and make that tip.
Oh, wow.
And we go through every tip. You can send a note directly to me through that app.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
I'm happy to read them. I'm happy to help.
You heard it here, folks. Let's do what we need to do. Okay, well, we will definitely, I think, go back to that, because I love that you segued into it, because it was perfect. And we'll definitely wrap up and cover that a little bit more.
Great.
How can residents help in regards to TAPS?
Well, you know, folks always will go to a community meeting and they'll say, you know, this is what's happening in my area. And what happens, you know, is you ask them, did you call 911?
Right.
And they say, no, I didn't call 911 because it seems kind of frivolous to be calling 911 because the kids are doing hand-to-hand drug transactions in the park.
Right.
Well, the truth is, if you're not calling, we don't know about it. We're not on mission. So we need those calls to come in. If you see something and you know it's wrong, don't feel bad about calling 911. That's our job.
Okay.
So call in, and then when you call in, it gives us an idea of where and when the crime is occurring. So what I would suggest to anybody is that if you have repeated problems in your neighborhood, make the call, let us know. And again, you have the ability to remain anonymous in those calls.
Okay.
And at least it tells us where and when the crime is occurring. Because I use that exact program to figure out where to put resources. So the biggest message is, if you know you have a problem and you have a community watch group, you have community leaders, encourage them to say, listen, if you're seeing, you know, I don't know, even if it's just speeding.
Right.
And you think, I can't call 911 about that. You can.
You can.
You absolutely can. And just say, listen, I don't want to leave my name. I don't want to call back. But every day at 5 o'clock, kids are drag racing on Apple Street.
Right.
And then we'll do our jobs and look into that.
I think another good tip for them would be if they can get the plate and capture the plate, and that's as much information as they can to give to the cops.
The more information, the better.
And see something, say something. Kind of goes back to that big motto we've been
That's
talking
right.
about.
See something, say something.
So I understand that TAPS, you have weekly meetings.
Yes.
What happens at those meetings and who attends?
You know, in the old days,
Yes.
we had an operations meeting.
Yes.
And the police are in the room. And that's great. But is that the answer to us being in the room by ourselves? So all the problems in society are loaded on our laps. You know, the first thing I said is we've got to get everybody involved. So who's in that room? The county executive,
Okay.
county council,
Okay.
county law, county code, the attorney general's office, the FBI, the DEA, the U.S. Marshals, because we are all in the same fight.
I love
And we all have a problem.
Yes.
And it is not going to be solved by one agency or one person, and we can no longer afford to live in silos. And then internally, who's in that room is every single commander for a particular unit or area of the police department. So the chief of special operations, the chief of detectives, the chief of patrol, even the administrative captains are in there. And then further down that line, their lieutenants are there, and then most of the sergeants are there. Now the rank and file are out in the field, obviously. But that Tuesday meeting is only 1 hour long, and you have all those folks in that room, and when we put everything up on that board,
Yes.
and it's your area,
Yes.
you better be able to tell me what's happening in your area.
Yes.
And if crime is up, you better tell me what you're doing, and if it's down, you need to tell me how it got down and how you did that. So the meeting is about accountability,
Yes.
responsibility, and proper deployment. And we literally will deploy resources right from that meeting. We can change our mind and say, you know, something's shifting here. They're shifting from Sparrow Run to Wilton. So we'll literally say, let's beef up whatever pay job, or let's move mobile enforcement, or let's move mounted right in that meeting. So it's real time. It's not we don't talk about last week, we talk about next week.
Right. I've been at the meeting, and I wanted to commend you on that. I've seen
Thank
it in
you.
action, and it is something to see, and to see other agencies in there and how you do.
Yes.
I've seen you call people out. What are you doing? How's that being addressed? And they've stood right up and said what they're doing, and it's successful as well. So
It's about accountability.
it's about
And
accountability.
we don't
right.
beat people up. We
No.
treat people with dignity and respect in
right.
our own ranks, because if you don't do that within your own ranks,
Right.
they're not going to do it when they walk out the door.
Agreed.
But that meeting is, you know, it is about being able to say, yes, this is happening, no, this is not happening.
Wow.
But you can only say, I don't know, once.
Right. Right.
You can never get to say it twice. You only get one I don't know, and then you have a week to figure out I can never say I don't know again. And so you know, but again, you know, it's about pride too, because
Yes.
what happened is when these people, our officers,
Yes.
realized that they could make a difference in the communities instead of just running around in circles
Right.
with their tails on fire, they took a part in it. They said, wow, this is mine, I own this.
Right.
We have never seen a more proactive patrol division in the history of the police department. Most of the proactivity used to it would come out of special operations.
Right.
And detectives are stuck with a very particular job. I mean, they're stuck with the tough cases. They're reactive.
Right.
Okay?
That's correct.
So there's only so much they can do. So you have patrol, which just answers the 911 bell. Not anymore. You know, when there's not a 911 call, these guys are being proactive. We have TAC cars out there. TAC cars are an old thing. That's long before me.
Right.
But the way they're used now with the technology that we have in the cars, everything you see in that meeting on that Tuesday is being pumped out to every patrol car we own.
Okay.
And that's what's important. That information is at the fingertips of every officer in the county.
Well, I love the key word you keep saying is proactive. And
Yep.
I love that. I love a police department that's being proactive versus
Have
just
to be.
reactive.
You have
So
to be.
that is great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for talking about TAPS. And I do want to circle back around to the smartphone app. Once
Great.
again, just look at the audience and let
Yeah.
them know what they need to do to get that app on their phone.
There's about 6,000 people that have experienced this. They've downloaded this app, and we have heard from several of them how effective it is on keeping up with tips, crime tips, knowing if your area has known burglars in there, reminding people if you warm your car up in the morning, which areas cars are being stolen in, which it's not a good idea to do that anyway. As soon as you leave your car running, someone's just going to take it for a joyride. There's so much more the app can do. There's so many different, when you get into the actual meat of the app, you'll see where you can report crime, commend an officer, report an officer's misbehavior, even if it's, you know, you just want to say, vehicle number such and such left its lights on, anything at all. It is a very effective tool. Go into your app store, download Newcastle County Police app, MyPD, and play around with it. And if you're someone who has information, I beg of you, there's so many families out there suffering right now. If you have information that we could use to help these people to solve some of these unsolved homicides, trust me, we're not looking you up. Use the anonymity of the app. We won't know who you are. We don't even check. Report what you know. Give us the upper hand. Crime is wrong. If we want to be a better community, it can't just be the police. It has to be the police and the people.
Wow. Thank you so much, Chief
Thank
Setting.
you.
Thank you for coming.
My
and once
pleasure.
again, love it. Love seeing you again, and good luck and be safe out there.
Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you.
Take care.
That was awesome. All right, so I'm here at the Public Safety Building with Chief Jeffrey Miller of the Emergency Communications Division, and he's going to discuss an exciting new innovative product the county has to offer called Smart 911. Chief Miller, to you.
Thank you, Lisa. It's Smart 911, and thanks to a cooperative partnership with our Recorder of Deeds, Mike Kazakowski. He gave us most of the funding that we were capable of purchasing into the beginning of the Smart 911 product. In 2013, we launched it late 2013. But we were the first 911 center in the state of Delaware to implement Smart 911. Now Kent County 911 Center and Sussex do.
Okay.
And what Smart 911 does is it allows anyone to go to smart911.com and create what's called a public safety profile.
Okay.
So you create this profile online. It's stored in an online database that is just as secure as when you're banking with your bank online.
Okay.
It's not information that we have access to.
Okay.
Smart 911 holds that information until you actually dial 911.
Okay.
So an example would be if you were allergic to bee stings. That's something you would want to include in your Smart 911 profile.
Got you.
If you were out somewhere in a county parkland and got stung by a bee, and the time it took you to dial 911, you might not be able to speak anymore. So we would be able to see the information. Your profile would pop up upon the 911 call, and we would think, there's no one talking on the other end of this. Look, Lisa's allergic to bee stings.
Wow.
Maybe, this is what the problem is.
Gotcha.
So we could dispatch services to approximate location of where your cell phone's located. But you could also list emergency contact people. So we could start calling people who know you, and they may go, Lisa's at Canby Park today. She's doing her jog.
I gotcha.
And things can be put together much faster while the field responders are trying to respond there and figure out where you are by having a Smart 911 profile.
Well, I relocated back to Delaware in May of 2014, and I've heard about the Smart 911, and I think I need to go and register. So let me ask you this question. My mom lives with me. She's 72, and my daughter is 11. So when I do the profile, would I include them in one profile, or do I need to do a profile for each of us?
You would want to include a profile for any person that could dial 911, be it from a landline or a cell phone.
Okay.
But you also want to include them in your profile, which both ways can be done.
Okay.
And the reason why I include my children, I have a 15 and a 13-year-old.
Right.
And before Smart 911, and you're familiar as being a previous police officer,
Right.
you report your child missing. The police officer has to drive out to the location where the child goes missing,
Right.
which oftentimes isn't where your home is.
Exactly.
Now we got to go to your home to get a recent photo of the child. We could have driven by the child
Right.
on the way there.
Right.
With Smart 911, you can upload and keep recent photos of your family.
Like that.
So in that case, the officer could be driving by the child
Okay.
and go, looks like the kid on my laptop.
Exactly. Okay, I like that because Sarah, my daughter, has her own cell phone. So I would go into a profile under her number and then include me and my mom as an emergency contact for her in
Yep,
there. Same with my mom.
absolutely.
She has her own cell phone, so I do the same. So I think this is a great little project for us to do this week and then snap some
There you go.
pictures and upload it. So
There you
thank
go.
you for that information from it.
The greatest information about the greatest thing about the Smart 911 information is you're required to keep it up to date every 6 months.
Okay, every
So
6
it's going to remind you. First, it'll say, hey, is your information up to date?
Gotcha.
Second time it comes to you, it's going to say, it's time to go update your information. And it has checks and balances built into
I
it.
love that. Okay, well, great. Thank you so much for talking about that. I think that's something great that all our citizens need to know about. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Hello and welcome to another edition of Safety Alert. I'm your host, Lisa Lancaster, and today we're going to be discussing Newcastle County Police Department Senior Roll Call Program. And I'm so excited to have in the studio with me today Master Corporal Christopher Gelati. Thanks, Christopher. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Wow. So before we start talking about the Senior Roll Call Program, please give us a little background on you, how long you've been with the department and such.
I've been with the department since 1998.
Okay.
My first 15 plus years were in patrol. I came into the community services unit where we work with different community programs and outreach. I came in there in 2014.
Okay, wow, well, great. I tell you, I just missed you. I left the department in '97, but one of the most appealing things to me about Newcastle County Police Department is the community service aspect of it. So today we want to talk about the Senior Roll Call program. Tell me a little bit about that program. Like, what is it? I have a senior at home, so I'm excited to learn.
Absolutely. It's a program, it's a free program offered by Newcastle County where the subscribers, they get a phone call every morning.
Okay.
The phone call, it checks on their welfare. All they have to do simply is say hello, like you would answer a phone normally,
Okay.
and then they listen to a little message, the message of the day, and then they can hang up.
Okay.
It's a computer automated generated phone call.
Okay.
If they do not answer the call, the computer will call the number 2 more times.
Okay.
If we fail to get a response, so those 2 times, we get an alert.
Okay.
If there's an alert, we have a list of designated contacts that the subscriber would have provided. We call them, say, you know, is he or she okay? We haven't heard from them. Would you mind checking on them? And if we cannot find them after going through their contacts, we check with hospitals and
Right.
emergency rooms and check with our dispatch to see if any ambulance runs went to the house. If we cannot find them on that step, then we dispatch an officer to the house,
Okay.
see if we can't find them in person.
Wow. Yeah, I did a little bit of research before you came because I was interested because I hadn't had any dealings with the program, and I saw that there were like at least 3 credits in the last 2 years of the Senior Roll Call program saving the lives of senior citizens. And I thought it was really interesting that I saw the form where they provide contacts and that in one of these steps the officer contacted the contact and they said no, they should be home, and that prompted them to send a police officer there, in which the individual was laying on the floor unconscious. So really kudos. It sounds like a really great program.
Yeah, we have a lot of positive feedback
Okay.
from the program. There's a lot of people who say my parent, my mother, father, they're enrolled in the program, and it allows them to stay home, have independence. It gives the family peace of mind.
Right.
That someone's checking in, and a majority, like you said, the person fell on the ground. A majority of our cases, the person will be on the ground and don't have the strength to get up
Right.
and answer the phone. So
Right.
it's
Wow, it sounds like a really good program. Is there a criteria or an age limit? Do they have to be a certain age to participate in this program?
it's
or-
for seniors
Okay.
or homebound.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to be a senior if you have a condition that requires you to stay home and you
Okay.
need checked on a daily basis. You can become a member.
Okay, awesome. I know if you think back when you came on in 1998, it used to be we might get a call, like a check on the welfare. And you know, there's been those cases when you hit the door and you know automatically you're going to come into a bad scene. I think this kind of helps avoid that.
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah, it really does.
Okay.
And one of the instances, one of the 3 credits that you noted, in the last couple years, there was it was on a Christmas night. The female fell on the floor and remained on the floor till the morning, till our phone calls started.
Right.
And then we were able to contact family members, and they went over and found her on the floor.
Wow, okay. I saw on the form that they designate the time that they want the call. It was all in the AM. I saw that, like, I think as early as 6 a.m. it looked like
They
it started.
could get a call in the 7 o'clock hour,
Okay.
the 8 o'clock hour, 9 o'clock, or the 10 o'clock hour.
Okay, awesome. And where would they go to subscribe? Is there a website, or how can they go about subscribing
They
to the
could,
Senior Roll Call?
2 ways. They could go to the Newcastle County website,
Okay.
and they could download and print out the application. I happen to bring one here.
Oh, good.
They can download it there, fill it out, and they can send it in to us. Or they can call into our phone number, 302-395-8159, and they can request that be sent to them.
Okay,
There's
great.
no fees or no charges to become a member.
Okay, I love it.
You don't need any special phone equipment or anything special.
Nothing
You just
special.
have a phone.
So even if it's a cell phone, it could be done on a cell phone?
Yes.
Oh, I love that, because in this day and age, that's what seems
Everybody
everybody
has a cell phone.
Yes. Wow, well, thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to add that you want the audience to know?
No, it's a great program. It's been around since 1995. It's actually started by then Colonel Tom Gordon.
Okay.
That was one of his initiatives. It's been around since 1995. We average 7 police responses a month.
Okay.
That translates into, I think on average, like 17 saves a year.
Okay.
And by save, I mean where nobody answered the phone, we
Right.
weren't able to find them through the contact people, and we went out and we found them and gave them the assistance they needed.
Okay, awesome. Wow. Thank you so much again, Master Corporal Gelati, for coming in. Once again, you heard it here on Safety Alert Senior Roll Call Program. You can go to nccde.org to the Public Safety Police website where you can download the application form and send it in, or you can once again, and I'm going to have Corporal Gelati give you that number, call
302-395-8159.
and register that way. Thanks again, and we'll see you on another edition of Safety Alert.